Hello everyone, JL Wasabi here. In the next few minutes, I will be teaching you how to play A.M.P in set 14. But before we begin, I would just like to say that it will really help small content creators like myself a lot if you can like the video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. Thank you so much and let's get right into it. A.M.P is a class consisting of Nidalee, Naafiri, Yuumi, Annie, and Samira. When A.M.P is active, A.M.P increases their health as well as providing extra A.M.P charges that power up their abilities in some ways. A.M.P charges are the little blue A.M.P logos that you see in the trait description below. I refer to them as A.M.P projectiles since it causes the units to shoot out more projectiles from their abilities or cast more in the fights. This is different from Cyberboss ability upgrade that makes their abilities AoE and only for the Cyberboss champions, as the A.M.P bonus health and extra A.M.P charges applies to all A.M.P units in play. I will be going through each of their ability upgrades in further detail later in the video. From patch 14.3, there was a 14% buff to the health gain at 4 A.M.P, while 5 A.M.P received a 20% buff to their health gain and also increasing the extra A.M.P charges from 4 to 5. A.M.P is a viable late game comp as seen from the popular Fast 9 Strategies Any comp that dominated the meta during patch 14.1. This is because the A.M.P units scale well into the late game as the increased A.M.P charges help to multiply their damage even more. However, this comp is very mana hungry and is focused hugely on casting their abilities as many times as possible. While there are no A.M.P emblem available to increase the bonus A.M.P charges beyond 5 at 5 A.M.P, it can be increased further by A.M.P specific augments that I will be talking about near the end of the video. Personally, I refer to A.M.P as add more projectiles in order to remember how the trait works. And you can also call it add more power as well. As mentioned, there are 5 A.M.P units available: Nidalee, Naafiri, Yuumi, Annie, and Samira. This comp will focus on rerolling for Yuumi as your main carry given her buffs from this patch. You do not want to reroll for Nidalee and Naafiri in general since 4 and 5 A.M.P was buffed, and you ideally want to be able to get Annie and even Samira early to activate 5 A.M.P as soon as possible. Furthermore, the nerfs to Annie and Samira also caused the Fast 9 Annie Samira comp to fade out of the meta. Thus, Yuumi reroll is the way to go right now. You can see from the unit's ability description that have A.M.P charges stated there. That is where the A.M.P upgrades come into play. Nidalee will scratch one more extra nearby target with every extra A.M.P charge, while Naafiri summons one extra Alpha Wolf to pounce at the target for each extra A.M.P charge, and this can deal huge damage that exceeds even that of the skill's primary damage itself. Yuumi is slightly different as it does not increase the number of her ability projectiles directly. However, every extra A.M.P charge increases her passive mana generation that in turn make her cast her skill more often. Thus, her damage is increased indirectly. At 5 A.M.P, Yuumi gains 15 mana every second, and when equipped with a blue buff, she can cast her skill almost every second given her low mana bar, leading to some very crazy DPS. However, she needs to be safe from crowd control as every second stun leads to a huge loss of DPS. Annie will shoot extra mini fireballs on the target and nearby enemies with every extra A.M.P charge, while Samira shoots 2 more bullets for every extra A.M.P charge. This may seem to be the least increase in DPS as at 5 A.M.P she will only gain 10 more bullets on top of her original 20, which is only a 50% increase. But do not forget that each of her bullets reduces enemy armor, which is where the value of her ability lies in. So for your early game in stage 1 and 2, you should look to play Yuumi A.M.P reroll if you are in a good spot for it, such as having a A.M.P or Anima Squad opener. You need to have a tier drop from your stage 1 ops as this comp requires at least 1 blue buff and more if possible. The more tiers you have, the better for this comp. Without it, it will be difficult since a tier may not always drop from the PvE stage. The early mid game will be focused on Anima Squad for easy transition into the end comp along with Techie since they are mostly AP units that can act as your item holders, while synergizing with Anima Squad at the same time. You are looking to lose streak stage 2 in order to get your second tier from the carousel and form your blue buff. Once you have it, you do not need to intentionally lose for carousel priority anymore. For mid-game as mentioned, transition with Anima Squad and techie units as you see them, balancing your board strength and econ thresholds. Make sure to form your blue buff and Ionic Spark if possible, since this comp is focused on AP damage from Yuumi and Annie. However, Static Shift works too if you need to keep your rod to make items such as Jeweled Gauntlets or Rabadon's Death Cap. Furthermore, Yuumi snipes the backline, so a Static Shift can be more useful in many cases. Once you hit level 7 between stage 3-5 to 3-7, roll to stabilize with Yuumi 2-star and other strategist units like Echo and LeBlanc. With Anima Squad, you can take Guiding Hex instead of Uwu Blasters, since this is an AP damage comp. For stage 4 this time, we do not go to level 8 since this is a reroll comp. For 3-cost reroll, stay at level 7 and roll above 50 gold in order to get 3-star Yuumi. This comp rerolls at level 7 instead of level 6 as we require some 4-cost units as well, like Annie and Leona for stronger A.M.P and frontline. If you are lucky, you may even find Samira during your rolls. If you find many copies of Nafiri and Echo, you can also 3-star them since they are strong units as well, but don't force it as the priority is still 3-star Yuumi as well as keeping your econ thresholds while rolling for Yuumi. This board typically caps at level 8 and at most level 9 since a lot of gold needs to be spent in order to upgrade Yuumi to 3-star. However, if you are able to reach level 9 safely, do so to cap out even higher. By stage 5-2, you should ideally 3-star your Yuumi, else you should be Donkey Euro rolling after that, which means rolling down to 0 gold every turn to find your 3-star Yuumi. Thereafter, go to level 8 to add in Nico or Samira for more strategies or A.M.P. You need to get to 5 A.M.P eventually, since 5 A.M.P is a huge spike in terms of the health gain and also the number of A.M.P charges to their abilities. You can have both Nico and Samira at level 9 so that Street Demon trait can be activated as well. Make sure to itemize your 3 carries that are Yuumi, Annie, and Samira. Prioritize 3 AP items for Yuumi, while Annie can hold the utility items like Static Shift or Morello Nomicon if needed. Samira can then hold the remaining AD items on your team. Your tanks need to be strong too, as they need to stall the fight for Yuumi to spam her abilities. Make sure to upgrade your Leona and Nico and fully itemize them with tank items like Sunfire and Crown Guard. Last but not least are the augments you can take for this comp. The single best augment you can get would be Blue Battery, since it gives a free blue buff and lets all your units gain 5 mana after casting their ability. With a blue buff Yuumi, this essentially means that she will be casting her ability every auto attack, and this is on top of her passive mana regen. However, this is difficult to obtain since it is a prismatic augment and is also locked behind the black market hacked augments. However, if you are playing this comp and that appears, it should be tailored and will offer Blue Battery to you. A.M.P specific augments like Overclock and Transference are also very good for the vertical A.M.P comp since it increases their bonus A.M.P charges beyond the 5 given by 5 A.M.P. Overclock increases the A.M.P charge by 1 while giving some free rerolls for finding your 3-star Yuumi. Transference passes 1 A.M.P charge to the nearest A.M.P unit when they die, which means that on a 5 A.M.P board, the last A.M.P unit standing will gain a whopping 4 A.M.P charges to have 9 bonus A.M.P charges in total. However, this effect may not be too obvious at early to mid game, since the power from the augment scales with the number of A.M.P units on your board, and you may lose many fights early on. Econ augments and rerolling enabling augments are also helpful since this is a 3-cost reroll comp and can be very expensive to hit, since it requires the most amount of gold as compared to fast 8 comps or 1 and 2 cost reroll comps. Item augments like Pandora's items can also help to bail you out if you somehow get many free AMP units or Yumis, but fail to hit essential items such as blue buff. General combat augments are good too, but are not needed in my opinion since 5 AMP is innately very strong. The above augments would be more important as the spike comes along when you are able to hit the full comp, including your 3-star Yumi and 5 AMP with Samira. You are absolutely awesome if you have reached the end of this guide, and I hope you have learned something from this video. If you find this video useful, I greatly appreciate if you can like the video and subscribe to my channel for more guides and gameplay videos. See you again. Bye bye.